I have been stopped by the police quite a few times over the years as a driver. It happens, doesn't it? Really. I think the first time I was stopped, I was speeding. Yeah, I actually was. I had a clean license at that point. Anyway, but I was joining onto the motorway. I was an engineer, and I was just accelerating onto the motorway. And sometimes you don't notice, do you really? And I was just coming out, and as I came out into the third lane, lo and behold, behind me was a police car. This is in the UK. It's going back a few years. So he pulled us into the hard shoulder, and it's a horrible place to be on a motorway. It's noisy, it's windy, it's pretty rubbish. Now, he made sure I didn't get out. He got out. He was risking his life for me. Fair play to him now. And he had a look at my licence, and he realised then I wasn't a habitual speeder. And then he said a few things. I don't know to this day if he was trying to maybe intimate something, or maybe... But he did say to me, have you had your speedo checked? Maybe it's not accurate, you know. And I remember thinking that and wondering, well, speedos aren't, of course. They're not accurate. In my BMW, I have a little computer setting on one of the computers that you've got real speed and adjusted speed. And adjusted speed, essentially, is a 6% added on. So when you're doing, 80 kilometers an hour, there's another 6% of that speed added on, which I don't know what that is, about 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers. So it'll show 85, but you're only doing 80. And you can turn that off. You can actually have it show a true speed. I didn't turn it off though. But I wonder, is that a defence? I don't think there could be any defence, is there? You were speeding, they stopped you, tough. I don't know how many situations you can speed in and not be committing an offence. If it's an emergency, maybe. I do know that a guy who his wife was in labour, and he was rushing to the hospital. Now, I don't think he was speeding a lot. Maybe he was the only car on the road, I don't know, but the police pulled him in and they actually gave him an escort to the hospital. They actually helped him get there safely, which I thought was quite nice. You hear a lot of negative stories around the place, and maybe that's human nature, that you remember the negative stuff over the positive stuff. Another incident I was told about anyway, from a reliable source. Somebody was driving, they just filled up the fuel tank, they drove off, and they were, obviously paid, whatever. They drove off, they drove along, the police are coming up behind them, and they flashed the blue lights, and they pulled them in, and they're very panicky. They didn't know what they'd done, and to be pulled in was a bit of a shock, I suppose, as it always is, unless you've done something wrong. Anyway, the police came out to them and said, your fuel cap's missing. So obviously it was one of those fuel caps you can take off to fill your car up, and they drove off without putting the fuel cap back on. And what was even nicer is the police had a spare one, and they gave them the spare fuel cap. And off they went. So that was sort of quite a nice story about the police. And I think we do sometimes give them a bad rap. And as long as they leave me alone, I'm usually very happy, I suppose. So I've been stopped for speeding a few times. The worst occasion was in the UK. I was coming back from somewhere on a Sunday. I don't know where I was. I hadn't been working, I know that. Was I on my own in the car? I could have been. I can't remember now. And I was taking a bit of a scenic route off the motorway anyway. I was living in Leeds at the time. And I went to this little town, little village, past a petrol station. Now, I was definitely speeding. I don't think I was going ridiculously fast though over the speed limit, but I was definitely speeding. I wouldn't deny that. So it was night time, and as I'm coming out of this village, there's a sign for back up to 70, whatever. And at that point, just before I got to it, there was a car came right up behind me, blue flashing lights, and they pulled me in just at the 70 mile an hour speed limit. And there was two policemen in the car, and I had to sit in the back. They got me out of my car, and I sat in the back of theirs, which is always an experience sitting in a police car. And I remember they had like a radio in the front of the car, and it was like the handset on an old phone. the old, well, you probably wouldn't remember Bakelite, but you probably remember some of the older phones were like a cream colour with a dial on them. Okay, there's no dial, but the handset was literally like one of those. And he'd been talking to someone on the radio or whatever with this. I think they were checking the reg out, make sure it wasn't stolen. But I do remember the two of them, and the guy in the passenger seat who'd been checking out the whatever on the radio. He was a bit overweight now. I mean, not excessive, but he was a bit overweight. And as I sat down in the car, and the driver got back in again because he'd come to the car to get me out and sit and whatever. I remember they were both really, really, really out of breath. I mean, like they'd ran a fucking marathon, excuse my French, and like pumped up as well, I think, with adrenaline. And I wonder for a moment what sort of warranted that, but as it turned out, they were at the petrol station and they were returning to the vehicle. Maybe they bought some donuts. That sounds a stereotype, but I'm going to say it anyway. So they bought some donuts, they're walking back to the car, and they see me and go, that guy's speeding. And they must have legged it, jumped into the car and chased after me, and obviously pulled me in. So anyway, it wasn't an offence for which you'd be arrested. I've never been arrested. I'm very proud to say it. But he did say a few interesting things. He did ask me had I been working that day, and I hadn't. And then he also asked me if I was a company director, which I wasn't at that time. So I thought that was interesting. I think the working thing, have you been working lots of hours? And I have an episode about working, a lot of hours, a lot of days. And also the company director, are you legally responsible? I don't know. It's interesting. And company directors, I think, have a habit of working long hours, don't they? So yes, that was interesting. So basically, he said it's going to go to court. It's going to go before a judge. I'm sure the judges have better things to be doing, but you could argue I was endangering myself and other people the way I was driving. I don't believe there was lots of cars around. I can't really remember, but it's a while ago. But I do remember that the weather was good. Yeah, and I've been driving a lot. I was driving over 100,000 miles a year. And the more you drive, yeah, maybe you drive a little bit faster than you should. And I was still fairly young, of course. I was in my 20s, so these are all factors. But I don't think I was a dangerous driver, and I don't think I was dangerous that day. But yeah, stopping me it's valid. Yeah, they should have stopped me, I suppose, if they saw me. So they said it's going to go to court. Now, the problem I had was they said you're going to get banned. That's the first thing they said to me. This will go to court. You're going to get banned for at least a year, maybe 2. And also there'll be points, so that when you get your license back, you'll still have points on your license. That's it, really. So yeah, I think somebody said to me recently that's not true. That if it goes before a judge and you lose your license, it's like get it washed, it's cleansed. So they might have been telling me park is there. I mean, if anybody out there knows, no, I don't want to know. I'm not going to Google it either. So yeah, and that was a problem for me because I'd already known people who'd been banned from driving, who worked in the company I worked for, and you pretty much lost your job. It was a job that required you to have a car. They wasn't going to pay for someone to drive you around, and it was an essential thing was the driving the car. So essentially, I was going to be out. I got to work, I think. So it was that was the biggest worry I had about the whole affair. So then in the post, I got like the statement from the police about what they was going to present in court, and it was funny that it was already sort of filled in, and they just had to fill in choice words like speed and location, name maybe. I was fine anyway. So, but I did notice as I got near to the court day, my speed I think was getting slower. So they, I don't know what happened, but they kept producing every, the run up to the court day. I didn't turn up in court, but I submitted a statement. The problem is it's just such a busy. It's ridiculous to court. For that sort of thing, you don't want to really turn up, but you need to make a statement to the court, And I pleaded for leniency. I suggested that a bigger fine and points would be more appropriate than being banned. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think that made a blind bit of difference. I did say about the job, and the company wouldn't get involved, but they did say to me, we're going to fire you if you get banned. And as luck would have it, it went to, and it was quite a hairy time for me. Yeah, I mean, the prospect of losing your job is not very nice at all. Even if you're the best at what you do and everything else, it's a tough gig, losing your job and having to find work again, and then explaining why you've lost your job. Why did you lose your job again? And why haven't you been working for a while? And how did that happen? And oh, really? You were speedy, was you? Oh. Yeah, you can imagine, can't you? So, thankfully, I didn't lose my licence. I was given 6 points and a £250 fine, which I paid. And I'm happy to say that I've never been banned from driving.